I get along without you very well. Of course I do. Except when soft rains fall and drip from leaves, then I recall the thrill of being sheltered in your arms. Of course I do. But I get along without you very well. I've forgotten you just like I should. Of course I have, except to hear your name or someone's laugh that is the same. But I've forgotten you just like I should. What a guy, what a fool am I to think my breaking heart could kid the moon. What's in store? Should I phone once more? No, it's best that I stick to my tune. I get along without you very well. Of course I do. Except perhaps in spring. But I should never think of spring, for that would surely break my heart in two.
All my bags are packed, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye, but the dawn is breaking, it's early morn. The taxi's waiting, he's blown his horn. Already I'm so lonesome I could die. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh babe, I hate to go. There's so many times I let you down, so many times I played around. And I tell you now, they don't mean a thing. Every place I go, I'll think of you. Every song I sing, I'll sing for you. When I come back, I'll bring your wedding ring. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. Now the time's come to leave you. One more time, let me kiss you. Close your eyes, I'll be on my way. Dream about the days to come when I won't have to leave alone. About the times I won't have to say. Oh, kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. But I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go.
I watched him circle around the block, finally stopped at mine. Took a while before he knocked, like all he had was time. Excuse me, ma'am, maybe you can help. The directions weren't so clear. I'm looking for Olivia's aunt. They said I might find her here. Well, I looked real hard and asked him what she's got he's looking for. Said there's something I think she'd want to know, and I let him in the door. It's not like me to trust so quick. It caught me by surprise, but something about him gave me ease, right there in his eyes. Just like that, your life can change if I hadn't looked away. My boy might still be with me now. He'd be 25 today. No knife can carve away the stain, no drink can drown regret. They say Jesus brings you peace and grace, but he ain't found me yet. Na, 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 na. Na, na, na. Sat down and took a deeper breath and looked right in my face. I heard about the son you lost, how you left without a trace. I spent years just trying to find you so I could finally let you know it was your son's heart that saved me and a life you gave us both. And just like that, your life can change. Look what the angels send. I laid my head upon his chest, and I was with my boy again. Well, I spent so long in darkness, I never thought the night would end. But somehow grace has found me, and I had to let him in.
I don't have to open up my eyes, crawl out of bed or raise the many blinds. Looks like rain. Looks like rain. Turn on the TV, worthless weatherman. Perfect day for all your outdoor plans. Looks like rain. Looks like rain. Walk out and grab the paper. The neighbor's cutting grass. What's wrong with him? Guess he hasn't heard. She packed up the blue sky and took it on that plane. And there ain't been no sunshine since she went away. No, that's not a shadow on the ground. That's just a cloud that follows me around. Looks like looks like rain. Love to close up this umbrella, put a pair of Ray-Bans on, and lay down on some beach, 'cause the clouds are gone. But the best that I can hope for is just get through the day, and then wake up tomorrow to a lighter shade of gray. Yeah, I know someday the sun will shine again, but right now I'd probably better head back in. Looks like rain. Looks like rain. Looks like rain.
I get along without you very well. Of course I do. Except when soft rains fall and drip from leaves, then I recall the thrill of being sheltered in your arms.
Hello? That turned it on? Oh. Oh, you got one too. Check. Yep. Yeah. All right, this is just going to start off with a safety message. In my line of work, we do this every time. And I know there's a lot of, my dad lived a long time, so I know there's some people in here that's been here a while. But in the closet, outside this door to the right in the closet, there's an AUD. The nearest phone's on the desk out there if somebody wants to call 911. And is anybody here CPR trained? Okay, so Thea is CPR trained. If Thea goes down, who's her backup? Okay? And obviously to exit, I don't know if we get out these doors, but go out there and out the side. Okay, and then if, who wants to volunteer to call 911 if somebody goes down? Okay, Corey. And if Corey goes down, I'll call 911. Silence your phones. Routine. Routine was one of Dad's biggest things. 3 days a week, the newspaper came. He looked out the window to see where it landed. Walked down the stairs of his 1911 house, grind the coffee beans, and then fetch the paper. Then he'd sit down with his coffee, review the obituaries, and then start in on the crossword puzzle. Routine gave him a rhythm throughout his life. He even made the same sounds with the coffee grinder every day. His rhythm was a large part of his life, as seen in his volunteering, climbing, coaching, being married for 56 years, and as well as many other things. Give credit to Christopher for this insight, as he heard this almost every day. 3 days after this video, the rhythm stopped.
Welcome, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to be here today and to share in this celebration of life for Robert Max Stayton, Bob, our dad. Our family sincerely appreciates your presence. Welcome also to friends and family watching via live stream. Thank you for your virtual presence. Please take a moment now to silence your phones, if the earlier announcement wasn't enough, before we move forward. Thank you. So a bit of history real quick. This church, Unity Church, is where Bob, my dad, met my mother, where Bob went to Sunday school, where he married my mother, Nellie, where two of his sisters were married, and where my mother's celebration of life was held. Dad was born here in Portland, Oregon on March 24th, 1943. The first of 4 children. Dad was blessed with 3 sisters. Dad attended Kennedy Elementary School, then Grant High School, and after graduating, he met, then married Nellie Albrecht, who would be his wife for 56 years, and completed his degree at Portland State University. Upon graduation, Dad did a stint in the Army before moving back to Portland in 1970 to raise his family of 3 boys. He also started a career at this time at ESCO Corporation, where he would remain until his retirement in 2008. All during this time and throughout his retirement, Dad had constants or touchstones, things he did not waver from. They were family, friends, the YMCA, the outdoors, volunteering, music, a love of sports cars and auto racing, discussion and debate, and did I say family? Oh, and that newspaper. Dad was a Y camper starting at the age of 8, a Y counselor as a young man at Camp Meehan on Spirit Lake near Mount St. Helens, where he also volunteered during the 70s. Dad's commitment to the YMCA and Y Camp Collins continued through volunteering in several capacities until his passing this year. Dad felt that Y Camp was a cornerstone for him that had given him the fundamentals of faith in himself and others, and the strength to lift himself and others toward a common goodness and personal excellence. Dad's commitment to a common goodness and personal excellence is felt in his volunteering with not only the YMCA, but also the Grant High School Alumni Committee, the Mazamas, as a soccer coach for his children's soccer teams, becoming Santa Claus each Christmas for neighborhood children, as a member of the ESCO Activities Committee, and also in his hiking and climbing of mountains and participating in Hood to Coast walking teams for many years. It shone brightly in Dad always maintaining and having a home that was warm, welcoming to friends and family, a home where discussion, great food, music, and family history was always present, along with the occasional disagreement. Dad's sense and care towards his family kept everyone coming home, and it will be missed. Many of you may have felt his commitment to common goodness in your interactions, along with his intent to be not only faithful to his values, but faithful and respectful to you and to yours. Whether a coworker, a co-counselor, a fellow student, a fellow soldier, a family member, a sister, or a friend, I certainly felt it as his son. His commitment was shared with me by me catching my first fish on the shores of Spirit Lake at Camp Meehan while Dad volunteered in the 70s, participating in father-son programs with the Y, and by his unrelenting encouragement and humility. But more than all of that was his view and perspective that we can each do more for ourselves and for each other than we may think. That has helped me in my life to see and aim for my best in whatever I do, and to help others do the same. Yes, there were times where my brothers and I felt Dad meant we should never fail, and it was intimidating. However, in those times of failure, we saw his support and learned that it was not failure we should fear, but quitting. Bob, our dad, was a son, a brother, a friend, a student, a paperboy, a Sea Scout, a Y camper, a volunteer, a mountain climber, a competitor, a husband, a brother-in-law, a soldier, a father, a coworker, a manager, a sports car lover, a music lover, an uncle, a grandfather, a father-in-law, and a mentor. Thank you all for being here and sharing this day with us and with each other in memory of Robert Max Stayton. He leaves a large emptiness in our hearts that your presence shores up on this day. Thank you.
I am proud to say I am Dad's son. With so many stories to share, where should I start? Stories like when he was 30 foot up on an old wooden extension ladder, cleaning gutters in the pouring rain, or how he kept getting shocked while working on an old light fixture in the hall but didn't stop. Or the time that the Suburban almost rolled off a cliff, or even the one where Corey, in a baby carrier, fell out of the Volkswagen going down the road. That VW became our first big project, as he taught me many times how to rebuild it, and then later I was doing that on my own. A real good story is when he helped me catch my first fish. Then later in life, I taught him my fishing tricks. One of my favorites is when we climbed Mount Adams all the way to the top. What a view we enjoyed together that day. Another that comes to mind is how he made sure I knew hard work. A summer job at ESCO he made sure I had. So now I look forward to hard work as a project lead. But doing that while dealing with these intense emotions for today, well, it kind of sucks. But Dad must have known I would handle it. He would often start a debate with me, even on things we basically agreed on. It could be anything, F1, racing, investing, the best this or that, or something I was planning or complaining about. It would challenge my patience, and many times I left aggravated and would share that with my wife. After he passed, I learned from the conversations I had with his friends, how proudly he spoke about my brothers and I to them. That was often how he was, challenging and debating with us, but spoke proud and positive of us to others, kind of bragging. He often knew things I didn't know, like when I thought I could recover from a motorbike accident on my own in Santa Monica. He walked into my hospital room and knew he was going to have to bring me back to Portland, even though I thought I would stay. A few years later, he shared how hard it was for him to see me in that condition, and that he had broken into tears when he left my hospital room that first day. But the greatest story through all these years is all these stories. And that's how we became best friends. And now I am proud to say that we were best friends. Thank you, Dad. You had a life well lived. All right, now I'd like to invite Rose, a longtime good friend of my dad's, Rosemary Liniger, to come up to do a reading and say her few words.
So I didn't know they were going to make me cry before I had to get up here. So, okay. So, let's see if I can see. First of all, I knew Bob through ESCO. We were good friends, good workmates, and he did all the things that Eric said, always challenged, and always questioned, even if he knew you were right. And I will always appreciate that. A life well lived is a precious gift of hope and strength and grace from someone who has made our world a brighter, better place. It's filled with moments sweet and sad, with smiles, sometimes tears, with friendships formed, good times shared, and laughter through the years. A life well lived is a legacy of joy and pride and pleasure, a living, lasting memory our grateful hearts will treasure.
Thank you. Next, the music throughout this, up here and downstairs, are all from my dad's collections. And we tried to pair them together in the right spot for this. And next, we're going to watch a slideshow and listen to a song.
If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know. Don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air. Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed, nor wind to blow. Reach out your hand. If your cup be empty, if your cup is full, may it be again, let it be known. There is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway between the dawn and the dark of night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. You choose to lead, must follow. But if you fall alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? If I knew the way, I would take you home. La da da da, la da da da, la da da, la da la da da da, la da da da, la da da da, la.
All right. Next, we're going to have words from anybody in the family, which granddaughters, grandsons, I'd like all to come to the stage together and pass the mic so we help to be efficient to leave time for everybody else's stories. Skylar, Zoe, Thea, Sophie, anybody in the family who wants to come up, including Julie, Vivi, Linda, if you guys want to say anything, words. And if you don't feel comfortable coming up here, we can bring a mic to you in your seat.
I didn't think I was going to speak today. I met Eric, and about 25 years ago, 23 years ago, and I remember the first time he brought me to the house on Miramar Place, and I was so nervous, being a girl from Eugene, for whom many of the stereotypes about Eugene are true. And I was talking with Bob. He was, of course, generous and welcoming, and he happened to mention he went to this church, and I knew I was going to be okay. But Bob always astonished me with the satisfaction he took in the connections that he had between all of you and everyone he knew. At some point at any gathering, there would come the litany of people that you both knew, where we would go down through the list. It was at family gatherings, it was often ESCO. Everybody we knew at ESCO, what was going on with them? Everybody who we knew from the Y, what was going on with them? People in the neighborhood, who was going on with them? And his favorite thing was when he could connect somebody from one area of his life to another. Oh, the granddaughter of a guy I knew at the Y camp, who I was a camper with, is now married to a friend of mine's son at ESCO. He got so much satisfaction from this, and I know that he would be delighted to see all of you here today from so many parts of his life, and to look down from wherever he is and see you continuing to make connections today.
Every weekend, I would go and I'd see him. Excuse me.
I want to follow up with Thea and my dad really bonded. And you could really see it. They would talk and talk. They could sit and just have these great conversations back and forth, agreeing on most everything and debating, talking. In some ways, a lot like he used to talk with Marty, his sister. But I thought that was something I really noticed, and he always liked it. He says, when Thea comes over, if I came over, it was cool. But he says, bring Thea next time.
Yeah. Grandpa left a big impact on me. He's a really good man, really good Santa Claus. He's a really good dad to my dad and his brothers. Amazing family member. We're gonna miss him. Gonna miss him a lot.
We did bicker often. as though we both are heavy-hearted and have strong opinions on many things. And although we didn't always agree, we had common understanding of that each of each other understood what we were trying to say. He touched many people in many different ways. And I'm very glad that all of you could be here today to celebrate him. I think one of my most recent memories with him was we went to, it was the last summer, and he took me on tour of Camp Collins, because I go there every year, normally, which is a little awkward because everyone knows me as Bob's granddaughter, so it's a common thing that people ask me. And every time we would drive, he would always make sure I held on the golf cart, because I think he had an irrational feeling I was going to fall off and just disappear somewhere. But he always pointed out all the trees and all different things that not a lot of people saw. And I think that's something he did in all of us, was point out something that we never saw. And made us realize that life is a little too short sometimes. But I think he'd be very proud that we're all standing here today in the same place that, has been down for generations and generations. And I just want to thank you all for being here. Oh yeah, do you want me to bring it to people?
Yeah, you can keep that one. Carol, are you here? Oh, there you are. Okay, so next we're going to have speakers from his volunteering group, starting with Carol Whalen with the Grant High School alumni, and then followed by Willard. And is anybody from the Mazamas here that might want to speak? Would you want to come up and speak? You can. Okay. All right. And then also a reminder that at the reception downstairs will have more opportunities to speak if you're not comfortable up here, and we have another mic that we can bring to your chair if you're not comfortable coming up here. All right, Carol Whalen.
So I'm looking out. Oh, I don't even know how to use this. All right. I see a lot of faces from Bob's days at Grant. Is that okay? And faces I know that go back to his early childhood at Kennedy School. I'm Carol Whalen, and unlike Bob, I did not take speech from Opal Hamilton, so please bear with me. Bob and I graduated together in 1961. 4 years together in the same building, and yet we never knew each other. But it was a big school, over 600 in our graduating class, so maybe not a surprise that we were never assigned to the same classroom. Besides, I was an L in the middle. He was an S towards the end. Now, we may not have known each other in high school, but we got to know each other through years and years of reunion planning together. Besides, somebody had to stay next to him because he carried the class checkbook. Now, I remember exactly where I was one day, in the dairy section at Hollywood Freddy's, when I ran into Bob. He told me he had just retired, and that was the perfect opportunity for me to suggest a volunteer activity for him. Why didn't he come with me to an alumni association meeting? Well, he did, and it was a coup for the organization, because Bob was always looking for ways that we might be able to assist students. Could we set up a speakers bureau? Or maybe we could connect students with alum mentors. And he was generous with his time, 3 terms as president, generous in his support of the scholarship fund, with his great writing skills and his ingenuity at being able to put together gizmos, probably out of PVC pipe, but sometimes we needed a gizmo to display banners or signs or flyers. And what would we have done with all those gizmos and all the bricks we salvaged from the old gym if Bob had not offered storage space? And my apologies, boys, if you're still finding bricks in the garage. Yes, I bet you do. Anybody need any? So I came to know him as a devoted, dedicated, diligent man. He was devoted to his family, maintaining family traditions like Nell's special Christmas cookies. He was, as we know, a dedicated ESCO employee, and he was diligent in his moral compass. And while he didn't become a crotchety old man, he did on occasion need to be reminded he was sounding a wee bit curmudgeonly. He was smart, he was well-read, and he was firm in his beliefs, in his opinions. Did you hear them once or twice? Now, the last 2.5 years, he worked very hard to improve his health and to begin the struggle of seeing himself as an I rather than the we he had been for so many years. The care and time he put into Nell's memorial was moving, from selecting the photos for the slideshow to being sure her obituary reflected the amazing life she had led. If I recall correctly, he was the last speaker that day, and can you imagine how emotional that would have been for him? Afterward, he asked me how he had done, to which I replied, "Bob, you did good." And that, my friends, is how I intend to honor his life. Bob, you did good. Thank you.
That was well said. Thank you, Carolyn. Next, we're going to have Willard with the YMCA camp come up. Willard Burks from YMCA Camp Collins come up to talk, say some few words.
So there's some days that really change your life, and mine was in late April of 2005. My wife and I had been living in the Houston area with our kids, and I had an opportunity to apply for the executive director position at YMCA Camp Collins. And so we flew up, and on a Monday, we did an interview with Bob and with Rupert, who is here also. And surprisingly, they offered me the job. And from that point on, my life and our life changed. As I got to know Bob as a board member, and then as a friend and a mentor, he really was someone who impacted my life and impacted the life of my family, but also impacted the life of the YMCA, and particularly YMCA Camp Collins. And there's something that Corey's asked me to read, I'm gonna read in a second, but really, I think if I'm gonna share a few words about the celebration of Bob's life, and Rupert and I were talking as we were getting ready to start this, is if you ever wanted a good camp story from Bob, you need to buckle up and sit down and be ready to go, because it's gonna be about 30 to 45 minutes. And it may turn into 2 or 3 stories after that. But it was always exciting to hear about his time at Meehan, his experience after the Columbus Day storm, going out to help to cut it, to help bring it back to life for what it could before the mountain blew itself. On my graduation day from high school, May 18th, 1980. And I was in Arkansas, so I wasn't anywhere near here. But also just the impact it made on him, about his first experiences at Camp Meehan, about taking Big Red across the river, about bringing all of his sons out there when he was older, and hiking the mountain and doing the mountain or the peak-to-peak hikes and the badges they would get with it and everything else. But really what you heard about it was the passion he had for impacting and improving lives. And that's what it did for him, starting at 8 years old, and it's what it did for us for greater than the 20 years I've been here, probably since the mid-70s. Bob was a special man, and he was special to me as a mentor. He's someone I could talk to, as any business would go, camp would have ups and downs. Obviously 2008, 2011 in my time frame were big hits, and then obviously the COVID years. But Bob was always positive. He was optimistic. He was encouraging. He always looked for what could be improved or what could grow or how we could make it better. And he never really wanted to, though he understood, to focus on what the, what was the downside was, but instead how we could grow it and be the best that we could. And before I read this piece, when I'll preface that, the last story I kind of want to share with it is during COVID, I guess, it was in 2022, as we were starting to get things going again. This was after your mom had passed. He invited me over to his house because we wanted to talk about the 2026 100-year celebration of Camp Collins, which we're still talking about now. But and so I decided, we'd meet at his house because he had some hip issues and some things like that. And so when I went by Psychedelphia and picked up sandwiches for us, which he loved, and then we sat and visited for about an hour and a half about just the planning of the event and some things we wanted to talk about, how to engage alumni, how to engage different people in it. And we kind of finished our conversation there, and he goes, "You want to have a tour of the house?" I went, "Sure, I'd love to. It's a beautiful home. And if you come later on, it's a beautiful home." And so we kind of looked at the first floor. We talked about the renovation of the kitchen and some stuff, then kind of the second floor. And it's funny, he showed me Zoe's room where Zoe came every weekend and stayed with them. And we didn't go in the room. I'm sure it was a mess. But we just, I saw the door. There we go. And then he took me to the third floor, to his study. And that was the most incredible. We spent 2.5 hours looking at pictures, talking about the old race car days, about his cars he had. He pulled out photos of hikes and camp and things that he did. We looked at just the variety of pictures and the stuff on the wall and just the conversation we had about his life and about how everything, all of this was culminating in this amazing life he had and the memories of it as we talked about it and sat on the couch and we just looked at stuff. And one, I asked him how he got up there all the time. It's quite a climb up there, but we just had a great visit and a great time. And I told Sherry later on, I just came away with an even deeper appreciation of him as not only a friend but a mentor and just someone who really is passionate and cares about so much. So with that, I want to read this piece that we did. In 2013, Bob, for probably not the first time, but was recognized as the Camp Collins Volunteer of the Year for our YMCA. And so we did an interview with him that we put in a newsletter we had. And so I want to read the interview, the piece that we had in there. It kind of talks about his passion. So it said, "Bob Stayton, the current chair of Board of Management for YMCA Camp Collins." And I'll say this, I'll stop there. He did it twice, and he probably for 14 of the 20 years he was board chair. So he was always board chair, which was great, and always very generous. He has been involved with the YMCA since 1954, when he and his dad attended parent-child programs at the Northeast YMCA on 38th and Northeast Broadway. In the late 50s, Bob attended YMCA Camp Meehan on Spirit Lake, and after graduating from Grant High School, worked on staff at Camp Meehan from 1961 through 62, and then in 64. Obviously, there was no camp in 63 because of the Columbus Day storm and all the damage. He said there was over 1 million board feet that they cut up off the site of Camp Meehan itself just to bring it back. Bob did a stint in the Army, then took a job with ESCO Corporation where he worked until he retired 4 years ago. This was done in 2013. So during the 70s, Bob began volunteering for the YMCA, first helping to resurrect Camp Meehan, then on the Board of Management for Camp Collins. And Bob has served as the chair of the board of the Strong Communities Campaign and also the board recruitment chair for Camp Collins. As Bob states, why summer camp meant a great deal to me. Looking back on those experiences, I know that I learned a lot about respecting others and therefore myself. I learned that one of the most pleasant experiences in life is to be around a campfire singing songs with friends. I learned that I could hike further, swim further, paddle a canoe, sail a boat, make new friends, and try new things more than I thought I could. I grew up better because of the experiences I had at Y Camp. I maintained friendships with some of the other staff members at Camp Meehan during this time, so Camp Meehan has always had a special place in his life. And he stated, I stayed involved with Y Camping because it meant so much to me. I want to do what I can to make sure youngsters continue to have the opportunity to experience Y Camping. All three of my own boys had gone to Camp Collins. At this time, his grandson had gone to go where you weren't old enough yet to have gone in 2013. I really like the Y approach, not too overwhelming, but firm and constant emphasis on the fundamentals of love, respect, honesty, responsibility, and service. And it said, Bob's passion for Y Camping at both Camp Meehan and Camp Collins are a strong and vital link to our history of YMCA camping here at the YMCA Columbia Willamette. So I miss Bob. I called him on the Tuesday after he'd passed that Monday and left him a message. And in the message, because we had talked about this, I told him, I love you, Bob, because you've given so much to us and to camp, and I just appreciate you, and I look forward to talking to you about whatever I called to talk to him about. And I texted him also. And those were the last things I was able to say to him. And so I appreciate Bob Stayton. I appreciate what he's done for the YMCA and for Camp Collins, and I appreciate everyone here to celebrate his life, because he's made my life and thousands upon thousands of campers' lives better through our camping programs. So thank you.
Thank you, Willard. Anybody from the Mazamas, or we talk downstairs? Well, if anybody from the Mazamas wants to come up and speak, I can bring a microphone to you, Zoe. And while she's doing that, one more thing. Carol and Willard, I've got a bunch of stuff for you from his house.
So, let's talk Mazamas for just a second. I didn't get to mountain climb with Bob. I took off to Whitman College after high school, and I climbed in the summers here out of Portland, mostly with Whitman kids, but Adams, Hood, North Fingered Jack, Three Fingered Jack. But years later, when I did get back to Portland in 2003, I heard that the Van Traub singers were singing up at the Mazama Lodge. And of course, I'm still a 60-year member. I keep paying my dues. So I go up to I invite a bunch of people. I'm so happy that there are people back in Portland. They never left. So I have a whole new bunch of friends that I always had in high school. So I go up to Mazama Lodge, and we're going to hear the Van Traub singers. And guess who's there? It was out of the blue, that guy right there in the picture. And he was so excited to see some old Grant girls, And it was just really sweet. And of course, the concert was great, but it was fun. He went along the line. We were eating dinner outside, and spoke to every one of the girls that were there. So I didn't keep mountain climbing. I married right out of college, and my new husband thought that riding a chair might be a lovely way to get to the top of a mountain, and so I had to learn to ski. But a passing acquaintance in high school. But since I've been back in Portland, it's been really special to get to know him. And I was at the end of the alphabet, and there were lots of parties, of course, if you ever live with an SW name in the back of the classroom. So he was very familiar when I saw his high school picture, of course. We started playing cards with him, in the sunroom of his house. We'd eat dinner. The last time I saw him, we were up at a restaurant up on Fremont, and the band was so loud. So we just moved back into the restaurant a little bit farther. The band got louder, and our talking got louder. Nobody in our foursome had a trouble going over the band. So the conversation just kept on going, and he could hold court in any place and still be heard. Do you have anything to say about it?
My name is Barbara Morrison, and I met Bob in the 5th grade. And kind of like Carol said, we weren't friends, but I knew him. I knew who he was. I knew his family. And we went to Grant together, but again, with that many people, I never shared a class with him. But I got to know him through the Alumni Association. And then I think it was in 2001 at our 40th reunion, he and I were sitting there, and all of a sudden we realized that we both were mountaineers, that we had both, I was a member of the Mazamas, and he was, I think, still just kind of interested in becoming a member. And we also shared a commitment to the community. And so I think he must have retired in about 2008, I think it was. And anyway, maybe it was about 2009 that he gave me a call and he said, the Mazamas are going to go up to the Khumbu Valley in Nepal. And he wanted to know if I was thinking about doing it. And I said, well, think about it. And then I said I'd get back to him. And so one of my climbing friends, I called her and asked her if she was interested, and she really wasn't. And I said, well, I'm going to go because I can't stand the thought of Bob showing me all these amazing pictures and everything, and I would have missed out on it. And anyway, so we all decided to go. And so I had kind of planned out a year of hikes and backpacking in 2010. And so he would go along on some of them. And one of the ones we picked that was getting within probably about a month of going was getting harder. And we started at the Mazama Lodge at Government Camp and hiked up to Timberline Lodge and then on up to Silcox Hut, which is about a 3,000-foot gain over 3 miles. So it's really climbing. And Bob had been working out, and we'd been kind of through the alumni and stuff, just talking about how he was doing, and he was getting so excited about it. And on this hike, we kind of got ahead of him, and we were sitting up at Silcox Hut, and when Bob got exertion, he turned bright red, and it worried me, but I think it was just his complexion. But anyway, so we were sitting up there on the porch at Silcox Hut, and I told my friend, I said, I'm really getting worried because we're not seeing Bob, and I was getting a little frantic. And then all of a sudden, he just appears over the ridge, and the minute he saw us, he just took off. You could see how strong he really was, and he was so excited about the fact that he was in shape, he was ready to do this. And about 3 weeks before we were supposed to go, he tore his Achilles tendon. And that was just it. It was all over. But what I admired about him is he never complained about it. It was like, nope, nothing to see here. Just keep moving. You guys will have a great time. Never fussed about it. Always encouraged us to do it. And my friend and I actually did made it up to Kalapatar, which is at about 18,500 feet. He was so excited to know that we had made it, and he insisted that we come over and bring some slides. And he said Nell would have some food ready. And so we did that. And he just never complained about it at all. He was just excited for us. And of course, Nell kind of was secretive about, she wouldn't stay down and watch the slides with it. She kind of hid away. And then when it was time to have some food, she came down and prepared it for us. And then she just kind of started sliding over into talking with us, and oh my God, she was so funny and so enjoyable. And Bob just kind of sat back and watched her kind of start. She was the leader at that point, and she was having a great time. And I must have mentioned something about their new couch, and they both kind of laughed. And I don't know which one of them told the story about the fact that they had been walking through Meyer & Frank's or Macy's, I can't remember, and they both liked it. And it was such a shock that they both liked something at the same time, they decided they had to have it, which sounded so funny. And anyway, so it was always enjoyable to be with Bob. We shared a lot of stories about the mountains. And bears and all that kind of stuff. And I know he would want everyone to know that the night before he died, he was texting with 3 women.
Thank you. That's a great tidbit there. Wasn't aware of. He'd be smiling really big right now. Okay, so that ends the volunteer side of it. Want to leave for okay, I want one person to speak for each of those, and then now we go into the open mic session, and there'll be plenty of time to speak. Try to keep it about 3 minutes or less, because we've got some food downstairs we want to get to enjoy. And we also have a mic down there. And we do want to hear what you have to say for sure. I wanted to move into the open mic, starting with Bill Klausman, if he's ready to speak. Longtime friend, goes way back with my dad. They see eye to eye on a lot of things and not everything, just like a lot of us. But he's one of his best friends. And then Felix, are you going to come up after? Yeah.
I think we've seen that Bob has a lot of families. There are YMCA families, ESCO families, his families. It's like everywhere he went, he created a family. I just wanted to tell you about the family he created with me. I met Bob in '61 at Portland State College, and we just had a ball. We studied together. We did some other weird things together. We flipped each other off together in the library, and no one could see us. But I won't talk about that. I just wanted to give you another side of Bob. He was a buddy. You know, I don't know how to describe it except family. That's a good word to say. He was my family. The minute I met him, everybody that he met became his family, like I said before. And let me just tell you the boating experience. You know, we had a boat, and we water skied, and we'd go out in the Columbia River, and we'd come back. And by the time that I was securing the boat with the lines against the cleats, Bob had wiped down the entire boat. It was all done. And I'm thinking, no one would do that except my brother. Could I hire somebody to do that? No way. But that's what he did. That was the kind of guy he was. And then family-wise, he'd come over to our house, and we'd watch TV or study or make Chinese food or whatever it was we did. And I looked out, and as he comes in, I looked out, and I say, I see you're driving the Volkswagen convertible today. He said, yeah, it's outside sitting, leaning against the curb. And I said, you know what? That's like Bob. I have a hunch that he and Nellie are somewhere up there. I don't know where that is, but somewhere up there, leaning against the curb, taking it easy, living life, relaxing, and hoping to God that all the people that he knew would take after him. And you know what? I think we all did. When I say I mean we, all of us. I mean, all of you people are his brothers and sisters. And what a charm. Where's Bobby?
Right there, yeah.
Okay, we're not supposed to call him Bob. Bobby. Well, enough of that. Hey, we loved him, didn't we? He was one of our buddies. We miss you, Bobby.
Thank you, Bill, very much. It means a lot. Felix Kirsting is going to talk about a really special part of my dad's life. It's really a legacy.
My name is Felix Kirsting, and I worked with Bob at ESCO. I first met Bob in '88 when I was a new graduate from Portland State in mechanical engineering. I've interviewed at ESCO, and after a test and a long day of one-on-one interviews, I walked into his office for my last interview. There were two people there to interview me, and I said, 2 people? Boy, it feels like you guys are trying to sell me a used car. And The best thing was Bob's response. He didn't miss a beat, and he said, "Yeah, I reel him in, and he closes them." And we all started laughing, and that set the mood for the rest of the interview, and I went to work for Bob. Bob and I became fishing friends during my 7-year tenure at ESCO. It was always easy to pass the time with Bob. We didn't always catch fish, but we always had a good time. We told jokes and talked about serious subjects. Bob was quite a philosopher king. We were always able to have a good conversation and laugh a lot. He was a good friend, and I really miss him. So I'm going to let my daughter Alice tell you about Bob's other career outside of ESCO that he excelled in for nearly 3 decades. To give you a little background, Alice was just a little over 2 years when my wife Corinne thought it would be fun to have Santa visit our friend group for our annual Christmas/solstice party. She sewed a Santa outfit and dyed my high school leather boots black, thinking I could give the Santa job a try. But after the first year, I was summarily fired from the Santa job. But I knew that Bob really liked kids, and he had the right profile for the position of Santa Claus. It was easy to recruit Bob to be Santa Claus, and from then on, he would call me in the fall to make sure he had our Christmas party on his calendar. I'll let you talk.
I'm Alice. I was the really cute little girl with the mullet sitting on Santa's lap. And I'm not sure when I met Bob, but I would assume it was sitting on Santa Bob's lap sometime very early in my childhood. It sounds like maybe 3. And this is to say that Bob's always been very present in my life, and he's always been known to me as Santa Bob. So every solstice or thereabouts, Santa Bob would arrive at our house with a big ho, 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 Merry Christmas, as you do. And all the kids would line up with their wish lists, and Santa always treated every kid with the kindness and respect of a little person. And this is one of the first things I remember about Bob. We were all people to Bob. He was even extremely unfazed by very weird wish requests from kids, such as the year that I once asked Santa Bob for a light bulb. And you probably still owe me a light bulb. After emptying his candy cane bag, Santa Bob brought the room together for a very profoundly special gift, which was Santa Bob's annual words of wisdom. And I wish I had had the foresight to write down some of the beautiful things that Santa Bob's very unique tidbits of life advice gave us. The message was always fundamentally the same, and it was wrapped in a very simple package that Santa Bob would captivate a room with. This thing called life is about love, it's about peace and kindness, it's about understanding people who are different from you, and not just helping your fellow man, but anyone in need and want. This common goodness that Corey was talking about, and community. And as I grew older and US politics got more complicated and harder to ignore, we often got the added benefit of political commentary with colorful language, if we were lucky. You knew you were a part of the adult club when Santa Bob brought you into that fold. Some of our friends came and went, time came and went. Santa Bob's sleigh got an upgrade from a Suburban to a Jeep at some point, but the magic of Santa Bob was constant. My husband and I's core group of childhood and high school friends, also Grant High alum, kept coming to see Santa Bob every year and eventually bringing their kids to meet Santa Bob too. The last picture that we have with Santa Bob, he is surrounded by not so young people who had been inspired by years of his words of love, service, peace, and social justice. And many of us took this philosophy to heart in pursuit of careers in government and law, science and education, and to keep democracy alive. When I heard of Bob's passing, my husband and I went about informing a very far and wide network of Santa Bob lovers that grieve and celebrate his life, lived spreading cheer, magic, and a pivotal philosophy. The pandemic marked what we thought was a pause to the annual Christmas Solstice party, which kept partygoers and Santa Bob home to celebrate with a lot less cheer. The reopening of the world, however, also brought my husband and I our first baby, my parents their first grandbaby, and a lot more scheduling and traveling. And it's a very deep regret that we just didn't make a solstice party happen this year, although Bob made his annual phone call to see when it was scheduled. But the last time I saw Bob was at his 80th birthday party at Kennedy School. Bob was not in his festive North Pole attire, but you could tell he had that same magical glow about him from the immense depth of love and friendship celebrating him in that room. I am very grateful. You are gonna cry, not me. I am very grateful that he had the opportunity to meet our new baby at the time, Silas, and see my dad in his new role as a grandpa, although that's taken a lot of time away from his fishing. So my toddler, Silas, will never remember sitting on Santa's lap, Santa Bob's lap, and he'll never remember the feeling of being in Santa Bob's philosophy, wrapping our room of friends and family in love and magic on a winter night once a year. But I promise Bob and my kiddo that Santa Bob will always be a big part of our memory and tradition.
Thank you. That was amazing. I knew he did the Santa Claus, but that was some more insight that I didn't have. I do have some more insight on that, actually. Is there any tax people here? Okay. If there are, close your ears, because he was paid for that. He was paid with a bottle of scotch every Christmas. I think that was my favorite part of that. All right. So now is like to first. It's open mic now, so if anybody wants to speak, they can, starting maybe with any neighbors that may want to say a word or two. We can bring the mic to you if you'd like or not. Anybody? Okay. And if you think of something you want to say, you can say it downstairs too. We'll have an opportunity. There's a mic down there we can turn on to. Please do, Rod. I think you told me some things you had... The last time you saw my dad, I think you said you sat next to him or something. Yeah. So Rod Stayton, and good friend of mine, goes way back at ESCO days.
Thanks. Just before I came over here, I was writing a few notes to what to say, and my wife says, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go. So I just wrote this once, and I tell people I've got a good memory, it's just short, so I gotta use my notes a little bit. Anyway, I knew Bob for many years, but I knew Eric for longer. There are two peas in a pod, guaranteed. Bob was always precise, always insightful, always careful, always accurate, and patient. When he spoke, there was a hesitation, a thought process that was taking place. His eyebrows dipped, just like in that picture right there while he was thinking. His words were always well thought out. And this is the other guy, they're twins, guaranteed. I know he taught Eric to fish because I tried to retrain him, I couldn't do it. Last week I went sturgeon fishing with a friend of mine, and I thought about Eric because we were sitting there in the boat and we were getting our herring ready. And I said, I got a friend named Eric, and I'm sure he learned this from his dad, but this is how he used to catch sturgeon. He would take the herring and he bait it up on hook, and then he would put it on the ground and he would step on it and smash it. I said, what in the heck are you doing, Eric? And I know you must learn this from your dad, but he said, I'm taking the juices from within that herring and I'm putting it on the outside. Made a heck of a mess on the boat by the time the day was done, but I knew he knew that from his dad. And when I used to go fishing with Eric, it was pretty frustrating because we'd be out trout fishing and I'd get my line tied up and I'd put my line in the water, and Eric is fiddling with his line. Every knot had to be perfect. The bait had to be perfect. He would hold a little spinner, the flatfish in the water. He'd see how it was turning, and he'd get out his needle nose pliers and he'd adjust it and bend it and twist it so it was absolutely perfect. I know he got that from his dad. I'm glad that Eric works at the nuclear plants rather than me. You wouldn't want me there. A couple days or just shortly before I heard about Bob's death, I was lucky enough to attend a breakfast that we had once a month over at Elmer's in Park Rose, and it was a long table. I didn't usually get to sit by Bob, but That day I got to sit right next to him, and little did I know that was the last time that I was going to say hi, the last time I was going to shake his hand. But so it was very meaningful to me. I remember we talked about our surgeries. I had a total knee and he had a total hip. And so we talked about the pain that we felt and the recovery and all that kind of stuff. And again, I realized why he was so endeared, so respected, and so well thought of. Bob didn't write the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, but he was an expert at practicing that. I really appreciated that. When I heard that Bob passed away, of course, my first thoughts were about Erica and Thea and how much suffering they were going through. And then my thoughts turned to Bob and the lessons that I had learned from him. Precision. He was always so precise. Insightful. That's what I want to be like. Accurate. That's what I wanted to be like. Caring. That's what I want to be like. When I heard about Bob's passing, a person that I would love to emulate, I was reminded that I better get started before it's too late. I really emulated that man. I really respected him, and I want to be a lot like him. Thank you.
My dad's passing, and he did say something, I don't know if that's what he's going to say now about my dad, but it was about how he was a truly great man.
Well, the thing I want to say, Bob was a good husband to my sister. My sister, she was born in the Ukraine. The Ukraine was bombed by the Germans. My sister was born in Kharkov, Ukraine, and she told me once that those years when they were bombed every day 3 times by the Germans, it was the happiest years of her life. And I said, how can you say that? When 3 times a day they try to kill you. And she said, well, it's because we always made it to the bomb shelter. And that's why those were my happiest days. Well, one thing I want to say about Bob. Bob, thank you. You were a good husband. You made Nellie very happy. It made her life what it is, what it was. She was happy all her life. And the reason was you made it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. That's my Uncle Nick. And like I said, that Saturday, Corey and I went and met him at Goose Hollow. He's infamous down there. I think his picture's even on the wall. He used to play chess and stuff. But one of the things that Nick said to me there, I don't know if I can get through that here, but this wasn't in our script, but he said to us that, he goes, you know, your dad He was one of the truly good men. Everything about him. He was nice and welcoming to people he even didn't get along with or didn't agree with. And those were Nick's words, said that to Corey and I the Saturday after he passed. And it really was something that made me feel even better about somebody I cherished. Thanks, Nick. Is there anybody else who wants to have the open mic or the mic brought to them? Or you can speak downstairs again, like I said. All right, we're moving down here to, I'll say my last thing. Before we move on to the closing, I would like to bring attention to the song Ain't Looking Back by Mo Pitney that will start the procession. My dad had recently hit a big turning point from his grief of losing my mom and I believe this song really represented that for him. He was really liking this music. He was actively focusing on the rest of his life, his health, travel plans, redecorating his house, and working on his bucket list, which is in that folder out there. He had it written down. He even had plans for a gathering that he had to cancel the weekend before he passed. He would like nothing more to know that his house was entertaining you all one last time. We will have one of his favorite foods, ribs, starting at 6. Please join us after the reception for a casual continuation of the celebrations at his house for Bob's last Wahoo. The address is on the back. I'd like to introduce my Aunt Barbara, his sister, to close this out.
Perfect. My name is Barbara Stayton, and I'm Bob's sister. I was born 2 days before Bob's first birthday, and I'm reasonably sure I wasn't the gift he was expecting. 4 years later, Joyce joined our family, and 2 years after that, Marty made it a foursome. The four of us navigated sibling rivalry without doing any permanent damage. We were all very strong-willed, determined youngsters, which made adolescence in our household dramatic, hectic, impressive, and lively, depending on who was describing the time. Even though it was sometimes hard to tell, we did feel unconditional love for each other. Eventually, we became grown-ups, and in doing so, we also became best friends, celebrating each other's diverse interests and accomplishments. Oh, there it is. During the time when Bob was completing his military obligation in Knoxville, Tennessee, I met and married a man from Colorado, Howard Pomeranka, the picture. Howard had many sterling qualities, and he liked to hike and camp, which I thought was charming. I did not share his passion for the great outdoors, but I thought it was nice. When Bob returned to Portland and met Howard, he was delighted that I had shown the good sense to marry a man who had not only shared his interest, but also his passion for hiking and climbing mountains. They both spoke the language of John Muir. Bob now had a hiking buddy who was part of our family. That friendship was cemented by their many adventures hiking through wilderness and climbing mountain peaks. Howard now lives in Estes Park, Colorado, and could not be here today to celebrate Bob's life in person. He did, however, send a message which he asked me to read. These are Howard's words. Born, raised, and loving being here, Bob Stayton was a native of the Northwest. He embraced the Northwest, and he made it a better place for locals and visitors alike. They and he were better people because he lived here. In 1969, his younger sister wrote to Bob that she was marrying an outsider from a distant land. He trusted his sister, and he wondered if a person unfamiliar with the advantages here would appreciate those blessings. No worries, no matter that I was an in-law. As with everyone he met, Bob shared his heritage. He introduced me to his friends. He trusted me with his sons. He convoyed me up Mount Hood, Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams, and Mount Rainier. He made me a believer. Anyone who met Bob became a believer in Bob. Many thanks to Howard for sharing his observations and praise of Bob. And if you didn't understand, that's Bob and Howard. As we bring this part of the celebration of Bob's life to a close, I would like to end with a prayer that is part of the Unity Church tradition. Please stand as you are able. Dear Heavenly Father, hear our prayer. The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen. Thank you all so much for coming to this celebration of Bob's life. A reception will immediately follow this part of the celebration downstairs. So the stairways in either side of the narthex lead to the reception area. If you did not have an opportunity to sign the guest book when you arrive, please take a moment to do that before you head downstairs. We look forward to greeting you all at the reception, and thank you all for coming. And let's let the family leave first. Okay.
I've got my eyes on the long road ahead, my horizon, the great what's next. You're bringing up old tracks I've laid down and want to talk about a long time ago now. I ain't looking back. Why would I when I ain't going that way? I ain't looking back. Why would I when I ain't going that way? I've got my been there's, I've got my done that's. It ain't nothing new to me, it's old hat. No, I ain't running from all my used to be's. I just don't really feel the need to take them with me. I ain't looking back. Why would I when I ain't going that way? I ain't looking back. Why would I when I ain't going that way? Ain't going that way, ain't rolling that way, ain't living, ain't loving, ain't going that way. I spend enough time watching the sunset